La tercera sesión, Alcance 2, Transición Energética. Para iniciar, conoceremos sobre Swedish Mining Innovation, Innovación y Desarrollo Colaborativo del Cluster Minero de Suecia, presentado por Anders Sand, presidente de Swedish Mining Innovation.
So to start with, very much thank you for the invitation, and I'm very happy to be here and talking about how we are working with R&D in Sweden, and also to learn some more about the Chilean approach and maybe also different collaboration opportunities. And I can see that we have a lot of similar challenges that we are working with, so I'm sure we can have a lot of good discussions on that. To start with, I will maybe define a little bit related to the title here, the Swedish Mining Cluster. What is that? And also I will tell a little bit more about Swedish Mining Innovation that we had a little flavor of in the first panel today, but I will give you a little bit more detail on that. To start with, you can say that in the Nordic countries and also in Sweden, the mining activities have historically grown up together with the different supplier companies. Quite often the mining companies themselves did certain development, and then in some cases these development branches got chopped off into their own companies. So there is a long history of collaboration between different companies in different parts of the value chain in Sweden. And this is what I would consider also the Swedish Mining Cluster. So today the cluster looks like this, that we have a few mining companies in Sweden. In Sweden they are called large, but on the international level, of course, they are not very big. But we have a lot of world-class suppliers also. Equipment companies like Epiroc and Sandvik, for instance, they have a global footprint. We also talked about Volvo and Scania that has a lot of other types of business, but mining is also part of their portfolio. And in addition to that, we have consultancy companies, we have different downstream industry as well, that are now kind of making up this cluster. And what's interesting about this cluster is that we do a lot of development together. And this actually creates kind of a win-win situation between the different companies. Because let's say you're a mining company and you work together with an equipment supplier, then you get, as a mining company, the first understanding maybe of a technology, so you can be a fast early adopter. You have kind of a head start. At the same time, the equipment suppliers, they get a lot of hands-on experience from the problems in a real operation, for instance, so they can also benefit from developing their technology together with the mining companies. Key actors in this system, I'm sure you heard about many of them: ABB, AFRY, Boliden, and Epiroc, Ericsson, LKAB, Lundin Mining, etc. So there are many companies making up this cluster. If I then move into the Swedish Mining Innovation, which is a government-funded strategic innovation program for the mining industry, you can actually see this as kind of the research and innovation branch of this mining cluster. Basically the same companies that exist and work together outside this program, they are also sitting in the board and they are making strategic decisions on what the program should focus on. Since this is a government-funded program, one of the main things in the background is, of course, that you want to support academic research. And by having the industry involved there, the industry can guide so that you actually end up working with academic research that is in line with the challenges in the industry, and that you get very well-adapted solutions that you can then use both within mining companies but also for equipment suppliers, for instance. This program doesn't mean, even if it's government funded, that the industry is getting any money. Actually, we are putting in money into this program. So on average, it should be funded 50% from government and 50% from the business side. And by us putting in money, we will not put in money in things we don't believe that will generate maybe a payback further down. So this is to ensure the industrial relevance. This is, by the way, called the triple helix approach, when you have government and industry and academia working together to be part of this innovation system. I have a few numbers here for the track record. This is roughly the first 10 years of the program. The numbers are, I think, roughly 1.5 years old, so they're not fully updated, but they give a good idea of the size of this program. We have about 240 partners that have been part of research projects, 274 projects. The financing, roughly, let's say a bit below 1 billion Swedish crowns. We also have international collaboration that I will talk more about later. Here, I think the more current number is about 24, 26 international partners involved in different direct projects. In addition to that, we of course do visits at companies and have other types of interactions, but these are international partners in different projects. We also work with, we call it upscaling, and that basically means that we use money from the Swedish innovation system in order to give seed funding for planning larger projects that you can then maybe get funding for on the European level, for instance. And this type of scale-up has been quite advantageous. You see that number there in the bottom corner, that we spent maybe 5-6 million on this type of scale-up initiatives, and we managed to scale up that into 300 million of funding. So it's a way to kind of generate more money for the mining cluster to work with, led by the Swedish entities. We also do events and all kind of other things. Then you could also think that since this is a government-funded program then for innovation projects, that we basically only see it as a way to get funding to do different types of research and innovation. And that is actually not the case with this program. We have a footprint far beyond the different project activities. For one instance, we initiate strategic projects that are not maybe within the scope of technical innovation, but rather maybe to give us a more strategic outlook and support for decision making when we are deciding on directions in the program, for instance, to research focus directions. Also, it could be projects related to finding gaps in the portfolio, that what kind of research would we need to focus more on to create a system innovation. Usually you have many projects that kind of link into each other in order to create a greater innovation, so you need to identify these gaps in some cases. And then, of course, different outreach activities, capacity building, etc. Another interesting thing is the strategic research innovation agenda, that we have written multiple of these within the Swedish Mining Innovation Program, and we are updating it regularly. I think the frequency is every third year. This agenda basically describes what we think the key challenges and possible future solutions in the mining industry is. And the interesting thing here is, if you look at the EU level, there is no similar entity making this agenda. So actually Sweden is kind of driving the agenda in the EU, because this is what is available to look at. And this was not maybe the idea from the beginning, that we would have this type of influence, but this has actually ended up like that. So if you look at the EU Horizon calls, for instance, sometimes they pick topics from this agenda. Then I have a third example there with a small medium enterprise network, where we try to promote also small companies in Sweden to find maybe international customers, maybe working together with different challenges in the industry where they might have the solution. So there's a lot of different activities outside the projects themselves. I think since we are here in Chile now, and I'm also visiting to learn more about the international activities that we have ongoing. We are arranging regular technology tours where representatives from the mining industry in Sweden will visit different continents or countries and learn about their industry, learn about the innovation network. So we have had visits to Southern Europe, Portugal, Spain, Australia, Canada, the US, etc. We haven't had any, I think, formal technology tour to Latin America, but we have had delegations visiting mines and having dialogues with different companies. As part of these technology visits, we quite often have some type of joint event and arrange knowledge transfers. And one example actually comes from Chile, where we have a memorandum of understanding between Swedish Mining Innovation and Codelco. We started this in, I think it was 2019 or 2020, and then the agreement was running for 2-3 years. It was a bit problematic because of COVID, so we couldn't have maybe the interaction that we would have liked to have. But very recently, earlier this year, we wrote another memorandum of understanding. So we renewed this collaboration, and we are having dialogue now with Codelco on how to find kind of joint interests that we would like to explore together. Also, as part of the technology tours, we quite often have small companies from Sweden coming along and building networks abroad. Here is some pictures then from related to Chile. So this is the signing of the MOU. And then also, I should mention that we work also quite often together with Business Sweden when we are planning the tours and visits at different mining companies abroad. So that's also important part to use the leverage of the Swedish government in order to find the right contacts. I thought also probably you would be interested in learning some examples of projects that we have been running. And I picked a few highlights in the sense that these projects that I think are very successful out of some certain aspect. So we have one small company in Sweden called Hypex Bio, and they are developing nitrate-free explosives based on hydrogen peroxide. And this gives a number of benefits. If you don't have nitrogen, you have less emissions of compounds that might work for eutrophication. So in Sweden, we have emission limits for nitrogen in water. And this, of course, helps us to mitigate that. Another advantage that this explosive have a lower CO2 footprint compared to the traditional ammonium nitrate-based ones. So this is a very small company. They started out with having research funding from SMI. We have an idea competition for the small companies where they can promote their ideas, and then we have a board composed of people from industry that will vote for the best idea for that year, and they were the winner one year. In addition to some prize money which they can use for development, they will also get a lot of attention in media. And this has really kicked off this company, so they are very successful now, I think, working together with the mining industry in Sweden and trying to implement their solution. This is actually a blast from one of the Boliden mines using these explosives on the test level. So this, I think, is a good example from being kind of startup support. Then I have another example, which is showing how international innovation can work within this program. And this is related to a very innovative grinding technology that reduces the energy consumption by about 80%. So let's say you normally spend 10 or 20 kilowatt hours per ton for grinding, then you will spend maybe 2 or 3. So a huge reduction in energy demand for comminution. And this is actually something that was built up as a collaboration between the University of Queensland, the Fraunhofer Chalmers Institute, Newmont in Australia, Boliden and Vale in Brazil. So you see that you have actors from different parts of the world coming together, doing development together. Final example, it's a planning project from the beginning called SIMS, Sustainable Intelligent Mining Systems. And this is example for where we used seed funding in order to then be able to apply for money on the EU level and get a lot of leverage funding for that program. You see some topics there that was part of this project. So safe and efficient mine design, connectivity and positioning, also an education part, artificial intelligence, autonomous material handling, battery charging, etc. So there were a lot of aspects built into this project. So I think this is a successful case of system innovation and scale up that we have been able to arrange through this Swedish program. This project was coordinated by Epiroc, and you see the partners here. So there are partners from Australia, from different parts of Europe. You might think that these three might be kind of the best shining examples out of the 200 projects. But actually, if you look at the track record for what kind of outcomes we have had for the funded projects, it is quite a good track record. From pre-studies, which are the smaller types of projects, we ended up with, let's say, a bit more than half of them having some type of commercial results or being carried further in some way. So I think given that pre-studies are very small, it's just half a year, quite small budget, about 500,000 Swedish crowns, $50,000. It's quite a good track record actually in how much was carried on into some more advanced type of level. If you look at full-scale and pilot projects, then we even have a better track record. A lot of these ended up as continuation projects or some type of commercial or non-commercial results that was then implementable in some way. Before I finish, I think I need to mention also, before you get too excited about this program, that it is actually ending next year. So if you are looking for collaboration, I should tell you that we have a new program that we got funded that basically does the same thing as Swedish Mining Innovation, but it's called Swedish Metals and Minerals. It has a budget that you see there, 130 to 150 million SEK per year. That's actually the maximum budget you can get in Sweden for this program. So they were very happy with the outcomes from Swedish Mining Innovation. And I would very much invite, if you would like to have more collaboration with Sweden, to come and talk to me, and maybe we can then feed your information to the program control of this new program. And when we are looking at internationalization activities, for instance, within this program, which is also an important part of it, then maybe we can find possibilities to interact more with the Chilean industry. So I will finish there, and thank you, everyone.